Thank you, Mike. Hi there. Good morning, everyone. Actually, Mike's not kidding. That was very exciting that Ryan was right before me because we're going to continue talking about measurement a little bit this morning. So I was very excited to be able to come here this morning in my hometown of Atlanta to share my thoughts about customer experience with you all. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at TMRE, which, if you're not familiar, it's the market research event. And it was out in Scottsdale this year. And I was speaking to one of my friends about this event today, telling them about the format, the short talks, and they go, "Are you worried? You've only got 10 minutes." And I quickly said no, and it took me a minute to kind of reflect on that and say why. And when I was out there at Scottsdale talking to market researchers, I had to spend a lot of time convincing them that experience enhances everything. But today, here in this room, it's quite easy. As long as the clicker works, which it does. I simply put up this chart. I mention the word experience economy, show you the progression of how experiences matter, and mention Joe Pine and Gilmore, who kind of got left off the slide today, but maybe next time we'll add him in. So you guys understand the importance of what we're all talking about here today. You know that end experiences matter. They drive growth, they drive revenue, and they drive affinity. My view about what's next, human experiences. And what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, more specifically, is how to measure those experiences in a human way. So not only do we need to spend the time applying the theory that we're hearing about today to make our organizations provide better experiences, but we also need to build great feedback experiences. We need to see them how our consumers do. And we also need to humanize the process. If we see it through their lens, then we will understand how difficult it might be for them to just tell us how we're doing. So to do this, I propose that what we do when we leave here today is think more like event planners and less like IT specialists. And this belief is a product of my split career. I've spent time in 2 industries, one being experiential marketing, where I was at an organization where we built large-scale and small-scale brand activations, where the goal was to drive brand affinity. And of course, those had to be seamless and very engaging, because otherwise, why is somebody going to stop by the Coke activation at the Olympic Village when the actual Olympic events are going on? Second part of my career has been in market research. I've spent time both on the client side and on the supplier side, touching most any type of custom research project you could think of, be it tracker, ad hoc, CSAT programs. So I understand the nuts and bolts about the different methods we have at our fingertips to gather feedback. So when you combine these 2 disciplines, you can have humanized CX measurement. And what it's really about, the benefit to all of you today, if you think about this as you're building your feedback programs, is future-proofing. If you follow the market research press at all, it's doom and gloom, right? We cannot get panelists anymore. They are no longer representative. There's too much fraud. Now, granted, it's a bit hype, right? But it's true. What are we vying for? We're vying for attention. In the market research space, we don't always have the luxury of a customer database to where we can go out to our customer and ask for feedback. And sometimes you guys have the upper hand there. But how long until asking that customer in that database to answer one question is too much? I'll tell you, I don't think we're that far off. Is it 1 year? Probably not, but probably within the next 5 to 10. So what this does is it sets the stage for how you can make your feedback experience more human. And now I'm going to go through 5 tips that you can take back today to your organization and just think through. Are we doing this now in our feedback program, and how might we be able to implement them going forward? So Ryan actually, it was a great kind of setup in terms of the idea of context. This is what this first point is all about. So that whole anchor point idea. Similar here, So oftentimes we send surveys just based on what our systems dictate or how we're used to sending them. But what is the context for that respondent? An easy example to think through is a frequent flyer. Someone who takes 70 flights a year, there's a pretty good chance they receive the same survey 70 times. So do you think they're taking it 70 times? Probably not. Do you need that level of feedback from that consumer 70 times? Probably not. So if we think kind of like a marketer or an event planner and say, okay, how many touch points do I have with that person throughout the year, we can make a better feedback experience for them. Number 2, lots of great tech here today. And I'm excited to learn about all the new stuff we'll still hear about yet today. But this is the whole idea of, I think in a lot of ways, because the tech is all shiny and new, it's going to solve all our problems. It might or it might not. So if we start with the mindset of tech is a tool to serve us, as opposed to the default answer for what we need to fix any of our problems, we can think more like event planners and humanize our feedback processes. And what happens is some of the nuance won't get lost in the automation that we put in place. There we go. Number 3. Now, Ryan started with a bad word. I'm going to add one too, unstructured data, right? Lots of talk in the CX world about this, but most of the talk is about how to tame it, not how to embrace it. I love unstructured data. I love open ends. Just ask the consumer why. And that doesn't mean it can't scale. I, in particular, love video open ends. And I know we'll hear from the Vox Pop Me guys later today. Their analysis makes it easy on the back end, so that doesn't worry my team. But then I see somebody's face, and I understand more than just the words they would type in. I can see them, and I can understand sentiment, and I can just let them talk. So video works that way, and also text to type. Just make it easy for them to tell you. 4th, lots of debates about scales. And I'd be happy to talk with you about my position about NPS over lunch, but that's not the point here right now. Let's talk about all traditional scales, be it NPS, OSAT, any of those kind of attributes that we're asking consumers to rate us on. Is that what really is driving their experience? The higher level order of experience drivers is emotion. So are we even capturing that? That frustrated consumer who did have a bad flight because maybe there was a seat mix-up. Their NPS score could still be very high because they have loyalty, but I need to address that frustration. I prefer to measure it both with the type of emotion and also the intensity. It gives you kind of a richer picture in terms of what's going on with that consumer. 5th point kind of ties all this together. And I know I am very guilty of it myself. When we are designing and deploying research, it is much easier to do that in a way that either fits our current systems or makes it easy for us as practitioners. It's much more work to do things in a humanized way. It's very similar to front stage, back of stage, right? Consumer sees you as very calm and collected, but backstage, there's a lot of rustling going on. That's okay. We need to shift that burden and make sure that we're carrying that and not the consumer. So I want to leave you here today. These are all the 5 tips here. And as you listen to the rest of the talks today, go back to your organizations and share out, please remember the human lens. And let's take time to just let the consumers talk to us so that we can understand how they're feeling and ultimately drive better emotional connections for our brand. Thank you.